So Cam, slightly different one today. Off the back of 2 wins, how does that sort of set the mood into this weekend?
Yeah, I think it puts us in a real good place. Hopefully gives us some good momentum going into this game, and probably just that sort of feel-good factor around the group. Obviously constantly wanting to improve, and look, the last 2 games have been good. Been some really pleasing aspects around that. Obviously sort of 6 points, and a good sort of comeback from that Braintree game. But yeah, definitely areas we sort of want to improve in terms of definitely sort of our final third work. But yeah, sort of real puts us in hopefully a good stead going into what will be a real difficult game come tomorrow.
To win a game is one thing, but to sort of dismantle 2 teams, 2 games in a row last week, does it just make that a little bit more satisfying, do you think, leaving home?
Yeah, I think the real satisfying aspect for us was going back to our sort of real identity in terms of how we wanted to play. I think we want a team that wants to dominate the ball, and probably maybe didn't get that so much against Braintree. But sort of the last 2 games, in terms of, again, sort of 2 different types of tests, Wealdstone probably sat back a little bit, so allowed us a little bit more possession. But Rochdale was a real sort of pleasing performance around having a lot more of the ball, dominating the ball, getting the ball into the final third, creating a lot more chances. So I think that would have been sort of the real pleasing aspect in terms of our performance, and obviously having those 2 sort of back-to-back wins was really pleasing, and puts sort of the group in sort of confident mood.
For the Wealdstone game, I'm not even sure they even had a shot on goal. You might be able to correct that. When you sort of have that impressive tactical performance like you did, do you sort of leave here with a pat on the back, knowing that you did your job to an 80 and got it correct?
They had one shot in the end, actually.
Did they?
Just the one for the. No, I think. Look, don't get me wrong. It was as a collective staff and players. It's really pleasing, and I think especially when you don't play Saturday, Tuesday, you probably get a little bit longer to enjoy the performance and the win. When maybe that Tuesday, if you have a Tuesday game, it's literally the game's over and you're constantly having to think about that next game. But yeah, I think it was sort of really pleasing. And yeah, I wouldn't say it was sort of we wouldn't pat ourselves on the back. We sort of go back, and as a group and players, I know the players look at their performance and see where they can improve, and that would be no different for us as staff. Watch the game back, which is the areas that we really enjoyed and were pleasing, which were the areas that we go, okay, how can we tweak this in order to have an even better performance of sort of the following week, and probably don't get too high or too low, depending on the result.
And during the games then, what kind of input do you provide to Gary and the gaffer, when there may be games that maybe turn a little bit against you or for you for that matter?
Yeah, from sort of my point of view, just sort of trying to help as much as possible in terms of the team. Really fortunate at the ground. Got unable to get sort of a different vantage point. So rather than sort of having all the management team in the sort of the dugout where it's sort of quite a low view, really fortunate in terms of home and away games where, especially home games, we've got a live feed in terms into the home management office, where I'm able to watch the game back live from a tactical view. I can rewind aspects of the game, which enables us to clip bits back and then present to the players at half-time any sort of key messages that the manager's trying to relay. So whether that's how the opposition are pressing, might be corners, for example, might be an area that we might be able to exploit from corners. So it's just trying to be able to give as much information back to the sort of the management team down in the dugout from a different view, and they might have questions for me, so they might back into me of they might have some questions they want to pose, and I can look at it from a different sort of more of a tactical view, where I can see all 22 players. And give them back sort of information, whether that's both sort of home and away games. Just have different views from within the game, really, to try and ultimately help the team as much as possible, which is the ultimate aim.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, so when sort of it gets to half-time, how much do your find does it come into the half-time briefing between all the coaching staff? Yeah,
so it'd be very similar in terms of home and away games, maybe slightly differ. Sort of home games will all come into sort of the manager's office, and I try and deliver just a couple of clips which I think are sort of the key messages, and I think now where as a group we're been together sort of a number of years. We're really tight and really aligned with sort of our methodology and sort of ideas that we're trying to sort of get across to the players. Sort of show a couple, and then sort of the manager leads sort of the team talk, gives us information, and hopefully if I can just sort of just reconfirm some of his ideas with maybe some visuals on the laptop or the big screen when we're at home, just give sort of a different view for the players to highlight the sort of key messages we're trying to get across for them to implement in the second half.
Similar to the Wilston game, Fylde have been struggling down the bottom end of the table. Nevertheless, does that sort of make it a bit of a trippy game sometimes, knowing that they have to pick up wins sometime soon to stay any chance of staying up? Yeah,
no, look, for us it will be a real difficult game. We sort of follow the same process around watching sort of the last couple of games, trying to identify sort of their style of play, how we feel they're going to set up against us. And look, there'll be a real sort of threat. Really enjoyed watching sort of their front line. Really sort of powerful and will create a lot of chances. And then when sort of the gaffer went down to watch, obviously we've got Aldershot as well coming up, so he was able to watch Fylde versus Aldershot on Tuesday night and sort of come back with sort of the same feedback. Again, sort of going to be a real difficult test going away from home. And I think it sort of aligns with very much sort of with us as last year. Probably a lot of teams wouldn't have put us down to beat the top teams around Bromley or Chesterfield. So we didn't know what it would have been like to be in that position where teams are giving absolutely everything to fight, and they probably should have scored a few on against Aldershot on sort of Tuesday night. So yeah, it'll be a really difficult game. We'd have done sort of all due diligence and prepare properly to try and put a professional performance in.
Without giving too much away, obviously, how would you sort of preview and assess Fylde's style of play and the way they could potentially set up tomorrow?
Yeah, no, it would be really effective. Yeah, like I sort of mentioned, that front line has got some real big threats. It'll be dangerous. They're trying to get the ball into those as quickly as possible so they can try and make something happen and get at the players, try and combine and get shots off. And so yeah, they'll get a lot of the ball into the final third and get the ball to those top players who can be really effective. So we have to come up with a game plan to try and stop that, and just try and really force that to our players, that how much of a difficult game it's going to be in terms of the mentality of Fylde and the quality they possess within their team.
Thanks for your time.